Our worst fears have been confirmed, folks. Paul Heyman is no longer part of Talking Smack, but we do have Pat McAfee in his place. I said last week, I had a feeling this was coming. They made it sound like it wouldn't be permanent. I saw people reporting, oh, Paul Heyman's off of Talking Smack. The fact he was off for 2 weeks meant something, but it didn't, because we have seen people gone for a week or two at a time. If he was gone from this episode, that to me was going to tell me, okay, he's gone for good. And unfortunately, there was no sign of Paul Heyman on this show. Paul Heyman was on SmackDown. It's not like he's taking a break from WWE. He's just off of Talking Smack. I don't know if that was his own choice and he has too much going on, or WWE just wanted to switch things up. I will say, like I said, as great as Kayla and Paul were on this show, Kayla Braxton and Paul Heyman as a duo, and I'm really going to miss them as a duo, and Heyman's diatribes and his interactions with Kevin Owens and Edge was on this show. That would have been so great to have them run that back from the Talking Smack right before WrestleMania, because they were on together on that show, and it was one of the best, if not the best Talking Smack they've done to date. As much as I'm going to miss that duo, I will say McAfee is awesome, and if you were going to have anyone replace Heyman, he is no Paul Heyman, but that's why he's great, because you couldn't have anyone do Heyman better than Heyman. So if you're going to bring in someone else, it's got to be a completely different dynamic, and McAfee brings that energy in spades. And I love McAfee on commentary. He's already proven to be a great co-host for this show. I will miss Heyman, and I will miss that duo of Heyman and Braxton, but McAfee is not a bad, consolation prize, so to speak. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Chill for my review of the July 10th, 2021 edition of Talking Smack. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are having a great week. I went in depth with my thoughts on Friday's SmackDown, which I thought was a great show, exciting 2-hour episode, and very newsworthy as well, with call-ups, returns, match announcements. Oh, that was a really, really good episode. A lot of good matches as well. I fucking love SmackDown on Friday, and Talking Smack was good as well. And they do note to kick off the episode, which I completely forgot about, this is the final Talking Smack inside the Thunderdome. Raw will be held inside the Thunderdome on Monday, of course, before we go back on the road next Friday. But I believe that Raw, and obviously Raw Talk as well, have already been taped. If they haven't been already, that might be pre-taped on Monday. It might already be taped. I don't remember exactly. I know it won't be live. The last live show inside the Thunderdome was on Friday's SmackDown. And this was the final Talking Smack inside the Thunderdome. Now, the interesting part of Raw Talk and Talking Smack is that we had them years ago, obviously. Raw Talk was more of like a monthly thing with the Raw pay-per-views back in 2016, 2017. Talking Smack was a weekly show up until 2017, and they made it occasional, and then they just completely discontinued it in 2018. I think they had like a backstage studio in which they filmed the show in. I don't know. I mean, it was backstage at the show because they would feature talents from the show. It wasn't like a WWE headquarters studio show or whatever. It was a show they filmed backstage at whatever show they were at. So I assume that's what they're going to start doing again. I don't know if it's going to be the same set. Because the interesting thing, again, about Raw Talk and Talking Smack this time around, because they brought back Raw Talk in June of last year, and they brought Talking Smack back soon after in August. I think it was either right before or right after SummerSlam. I think it was right before SummerSlam. And all of the episodes have been taped within the Thunderdome. Or if they were at the PC for Raw Talk, they were taping it, I think, at backstage at a studio at the Performance Center or whatever. So it's not going to change anything too drastically. I don't think they're going to film the show in front of fans while the stadium is being emptied out or the arena is being emptied out at whatever arena they're in. I assume they're just going to be backstage for the show. I would love to see Talking Smack go back to a post SmackDown time slot on Fridays. It's been dropping on the sooner side on Saturdays in recent weeks, which I really appreciate. It makes it a lot easier for me to watch it and review it and whatnot. Even though these reviews of mine go up on Sundays now. It just doesn't. It makes it a lot easier for me to watch and review them if they go up a lot sooner, because I might be out on Saturday nights when they go up. So, that being said, I would love to see it go back to it being right after SmackDown. Who gives a fuck about 205 Live anyway? Even if do it after 205 Live. I don't see the point of having it go up on Saturday mornings, especially when it's not at a given time. They just put it up whenever they feel like it on Saturday morning. So I would love to see it go back to being live like Raw Talk is currently. Just, behind the scenes, obviously, after Raw on Monday nights. So, at any rate, McAfee talks about taking Big E up on his offer to sit on his couch and put his feet in the water during the show, which was great. Before they get into the guests, they recap the end of the show that saw Edge and the Mysterios ambush Roman Reigns and the Usos, which was a great, strong segment to end the show with. They also announce, which everyone now knows, considering I'm reviewing this on Sunday and this was public knowledge on Saturday. I actually was one of the first to break the news because I was one of the first loser people to watch Talking Smack on Saturday. Who watches Talking Smack as soon as it goes up? I do. So I kind of broke the news on my Twitter that it's going to be Edge and Rey and Dominic Mysterio next week on SmackDown, taking on the trio of Roman Reigns and the Usos. That's going to be fucking awesome. Edge's second ever match on SmackDown in 2021, his first being against Jay right before Fastlane back in March, and Roman's, I think, third match of 2021 on SmackDown, facing Bryan in April. Was it April? Yeah, it was April. He faced Rey in June inside Hell in the Cell. And now he's going to be in a six-man tag team match 2 days before Money in the Bank in front of the fans for the first time of the year on SmackDown, which is really, really cool. They also recap Shotzi and Tegan Nox debuting on SmackDown this week, which was a really cool moment. Happy to see them on the show. I would have loved if we got them here on Talking Smack, but I'm sure it's only inevitable before we get them here on Talking Smack, so hopefully soon. They also recap Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs buying Corbin's old car at an auction for dirt cheap. And Boogs and Nakamura were actually the first guests here on Talking Smack, and Boogs plays Nakamura in, and he mentions that they actually bought the car for pennies after it was worth, I guess, $250,000 originally. And he also calls himself, Boogs does, the jester for Nakamura. If Nakamura is the king, then he's the jester in providing the entertainment and the laughs and all the other stuff, the music. Nakamura says that he's been waiting for this opportunity to get back, or not to get back, but just to win the Money in the Bank ladder match for a long time now. He's been involved in a Money in the Bank ladder match before, back in 2017, his rookie year on the main roster, losing the very last second. That was where we got the first interaction between AJ Styles and Nakamura, losing the very last second to none other than Baron Corbin. And he recalls Corbin winning back in 2017, and he wants that opportunity for himself this year, kind of riding off the wave of momentum that he's currently on as the king of WWE, or whatever the fuck they're calling him. And they also hype up next week's Fatal 4-Way match that will see Nakamura battle Rollins, Big E, and Kevin Owens 2 days before Money in the Bank. So that's going to be a very good match. Before they bring on the next guest, Kayla and Pat talk about Bayley's injury, which is really unfortunate. I talked about this at length in my SmackDown audio review from yesterday, but I think it was a torn ACL. She's going to be out for at least 9 months, which puts her back on track for like WrestleMania, right after WrestleMania, which is fucking terrible timing. That really sucks. So she's out for a while. They announced it right before SmackDown. They needed the women on SmackDown, which is why they called up Shotzi and Tegan, and now Toni Storm as well, which is cool. The next guest they have on the show is Carmella, who says that she's more than a pretty face, and she's going to prove that next week when she wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. And she has to be taken seriously, she says, and having beaten this long list of opponents, including Asuka, which is true, Charlotte Flair, which is true. She says that she beat Alexa Bliss and Sasha Banks and all these other people, which I don't remember her ever beating Alexa Bliss. I don't remember those two ever having a singles match in the main roster. I know Alexa's been a heel for the better part of her SmackDown Raw run. Carmella's been a heel pretty much the entire time. Maybe they did have a match at some point, I just don't remember. They did have a couple matches in NXT, maybe that's what she's referring to, but that's like 6 or 7 years ago. Her beating Sasha, I don't remember that at all. I know she beat her like by DQ when they were first feuding late last year. Maybe that's what she's referring to. Either way, she's racked up a lot of wins over a lot of people, and she claims that she should be taken seriously as a result. She believes that Sonya gave her this opportunity at the title next week because she deserves it, which she doesn't. In storyline, she lost to Liv Morgan twice in the last couple of matches on SmackDown, so from a storyline standpoint, she doesn't, but I believe that's the point, that she's being given opportunities that she doesn't deserve. She says that Bayley is her best friend, which I think is a shoe. I know, obviously, Bayley and Sasha are very close, but Carmella and Bayley were friends for a long time, including in NXT, and have been friends for a long time. And she mentions that because she knows that Bayley is going to share some info about Bianca and what she learned from her matches with Bianca. And she's going to share that with Carmella and have her, allow her to beat Bianca next week for that championship and kind of prepare her for that opportunity. And Pat says, you got to get ready on a week's notice, blah, 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 blah. And Carmella says, it doesn't really matter to me because I don't have to get ready. I just stay ready for any opportunity that comes my way. The last guest we have here on the show is Edge in his first appearance, and I think his only second ever appearance on Talking Smack, his first one being right before WrestleMania, and that literally consisted of the entire episode. Did Heyman and Edge and that interaction they had on Talking Smack, which was fucking awesome. I loved that episode, and I loved that exchange. This was not that same Edge. He's not off the deep end as much anymore. He's more of a babyface now. Heyman wasn't even here, unfortunately. But he was great, though. Edge does not get enough credit, and he gets a lot of credit from a lot of people, but I still feel like he's underrated on the mic. He is probably the best talker in all of WWE right now. Heyman and Roman are great, but Edge is just on another fucking level. He's amazing. He talks about how he has to dip into a different place every time he comes back, depending on the talent who's in front of him, and that's exactly what he's had to do since returning to confront Roman Reigns. He knows what Roman Reigns brings to the table. He acknowledges that here, no pun intended. But at the same time, Roman has to acknowledge that Edge has won more championships than anyone else in WWE history. 31 titles. And he even said here, which was fucking hilarious, he's like, I don't count the 24/7 championship. And who the fuck should? The 24/7 championship is completely pointless. If you count the 24/7 title, R-Truth has won more championships than anyone in WWE, but it's a joke title, so let's not even count that shit. But he brings up how he tries not to focus on regret, but it's been tough for him. That WrestleMania loss really bothered him. And McAfee asks him if he has doubt going into Money in the Bank after losing at WrestleMania. And Edge says, I never have doubt, but I do have anger. And he had a lot of anger coming into WrestleMania because he could have won that championship at various points. He didn't. And he had to manifest that anger into a more positive way. And he feels that he was able to accomplish that in his time away. He had to collect himself, and that's why he was gone for a while. It was time for self-reflection. And when McAfee says, or Kayla brings up, do you feel like next week's six-man tag team match is your way to send a message to Roman Reigns ahead of Money in the Bank? He feels in watching that footage back from Friday of this week that was him sending a message to Reigns and the Usos. And Reigns has brought up a lot in Edge's absence. Oh, I stacked him and I pinned him and blah, blah, blah. Edge brings up how Roman glossed over a lot of the facts and that he probably would have won the championship had Daniel Bryan not pulled the referee out of the ring when Edge was getting the pin. Or had Jey Uso not gotten involved, or had this not happened, or that not happened, had Daniel Bryan not even been involved in the first place. Reigns glossed over a lot of those facts. And Edge feels like he's in Roman's head, no doubt about it. And in his final verbal message to Roman Reigns here on the show, he cuts a great promo talking about how he overcame almost 9 years of retirement to come back. A groin issue, a broken frickin' neck. He didn't say that, but in the words of Kurt Angle, he did. A broken frickin' neck. He overcame, a lot of issues, a lot of injuries, a lot of bad knees and torn ACLs and Achilles and a lot of injuries over the course of his career. He didn't come back and overcome that shit just to be a happy-go-lucky guy and to be content. He came back to be a champion. And Roman just so happens to be that champion. He just so happens to be the wrong champion at the wrong time. And he wants back the championship that he never lost. And he's going to end that decade-long story at Money in the Bank when he beats Roman Reigns for that Universal Championship. This was awesome stuff from Edge, the usual great promo. I didn't even know he was going to be on Talking Smack until they were like, oh, here comes our final guest, Edge. And I'm like, holy shit. Because I don't even think they advertised Edge for Talking Smack on SmackDown itself. So I thought that was cool. And it's very rare that they get, big guests like this on Talking Smack. Like, for example, Roman Reigns, I don't think has appeared on Talking Smack once. It's just not worth his time. They never really get Randy Orton on Raw Talk. Edge is another guy that's kind of alluded doing the talk shows. And it makes sense, because the more you have the people on, the less special it feels. But this felt special because we never have Edge on Talking Smack for the most part, aside from that one episode back in March, or April, or whatever it was. Right before WrestleMania. This was great, though. He was the best part of the episode. McAfee is awesome. I'm going to really miss Heyman. But like I said, McAfee, you can't go wrong with the guy at this point, and he's a solid second choice. He's a very good consolation prize. He's a very good backup choice. So kudos to WWE on that, although I will miss Heyman, and hopefully we get him back at some point, if only for a one-off. Carmella was fine. Nakamura and Boogs were fun. So an enjoyable episode of Talking Smack per usual for the July 10th episode for 2021 of this past weekend. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this review as well. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. The old like button. I would appreciate it. Drop a comment, share the video, subscribe to the channel for more daily content, including hitting the bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. We got Talking Smack reviews every Sunday, SmackDown audio reviews every Saturday, Raw Talk reviews every Tuesday, hashtag AskGSM Q&A videos every Wednesday. We got WrestleRant radio excerpts every Thursday. And in recent weeks, we've had, low-key reviews on Fridays, which has been a lot of fun. A Black Widow review is also coming soon, so stay tuned for that. And we've had interviews go up as well on various occasions in recent weeks. Just this last week alone, I talked to Eva Marie on Monday. That went up for Bleacher Report. And then on Wednesday, which went up for Fansided Daily DDT on Wednesday with Titus O'Neil, WWE Superstar as well. So check out those interviews. The Black Widow interview is coming soon. Black Widow review is coming soon as well. Great movie. Checked that out this past weekend. And tomorrow, you're going to want to have to watch this. New Broken Skull Sessions drops today on Peacock and the WWE Network everywhere else. You're not going to want to miss my review of Broken Skull Sessions with Kevin Nash, coming very likely tomorrow here to the channel. So like I said, subscribe and hit that bell button to be notified when that video goes up on Monday. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.